hard work during our facility's closure. So I want to thank all of our administrators for coordinating the distribution of learning packets, Chromebooks, and following up with students whose staff have had a challenging time contacting. I want to thank our teachers who have created Google Classrooms, lesson plans, and virtual lessons for their students, and reaching out to contact all students, ensuring that they are safe and healthy. I want to thank our classified staff for providing all of the additional help needed to support students and families as we have rolled out our distance learning plan. I want to thank our Board of Trustees for providing the support needed for all employees to continue the work needed to educate and feed our students. Lastly, I want to thank all of our parents who are working with their children to support their learning from home, and we are all doing the best we can to provide students the support they need. I want to let all the parents know and the students that we truly miss our students and wish we had them back in our classrooms. However, the health and safety of our students and staff is paramount, and we'll continue to follow the guidance of the State of California and Ventura County Health Department. I'd like to share a few facts regarding the incredible work being performed by our dedicated staff. Last week, our elementary schools distributed nearly 1,000 Chromebooks to students. We have also distributed another 628 at Santa Paula High School, 25 at Renaissance High School, and nearly 700 at Isbell. All total, we've handed out about 2,000 Chromebooks to support our students with distance learning. Our technology department has been working extremely hard to assist with taking phone calls to troubleshoot the technology questions that come with students having Chromebooks at home. We've established a technology help desk that parents and students can call to ask questions regarding their device, and thus far, the technicians have fielded over 200 phone calls. To contact the help desk, parents or students can call 805-933-8980. And the final fact I'd like to share is our Child Nutrition Services Department, led by Director Suzanne Stamp, has provided a total of over 142,000 meals to the children of Santa Paula since March 16th. That is just phenomenal. And I want to thank all the volunteers who have been coming out to help out. And in closing, I want to let our seniors know that they have not been forgotten. Ms. Garcia, Ms. Gillette, and staff are working on plans to ensure that our seniors will be recognized and honored for their hard work and accomplishments over the past 4 years. Rest assured, a plan is being worked on. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and Administration, I ask everyone to please be safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cora. And now I'm going to read item 5, public comments. In accordance with Governor Newsom's executive orders N-33-20 and N-29-20 respectively, in regards to the COVID-19 virus, members of the public will continue to have the right to observe the public meeting via live streaming at www.kadytv.net and submit comments in writing prior to the start of the meeting at mgarcia@santapaulaunified.org. Please limit written remarks to 3 minutes unless otherwise informed. In accordance with Education Code 35145.5, the board cannot enter into a formal discussion or make a decision on any matter not on the agenda for this meeting. Having said that, there are no public comments tonight, but they certainly will be welcome at any more meetings like this. All right, now we're going to move on to action items. Item number 6A, approval of memorandum of understanding between Santa Paula Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, Chapter 891, to address COVID-19 public health impact. Staff recommends the Board of Trustees review and consider approval of the memorandum of understanding. Dr. Cora? Oh, I'm sorry, I have to get one. Sorry, is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you. Discussion. Dr. Cora?
Again,
Sorry.
it's just staff is recommending that the board review and consider approving the MOU with CSEA.
Okay, is there any discussion from anyone? So, should we take a vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. And there are none. The passes 5-0. Action item B, approval of contract with Boyd and Associates for district-wide overnight security patrol service. The staff recommends the Board of Trustees review and consider approving a contract with Boyd and Associates for this overnight security patrol. Is there a motion?
Move to approve 6B.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All right, and discussion. Any
I
discussion?
have a quick question.
Yes, Derek?
Did we ever get a report on the last time we used the overnight security? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm going to defer, Mr. Luna, to one of our staff members. Do we, by any chance, have anything from the last time we used them over the Maria fire, I believe is when it was?
I don't have an official report. If there's specific information that the board would like me to collect, I'd be happy to get that information together. We utilized them for a short period of time over the holidays. I believe it was 2018. But again, we intended to use them for a short period of time, and we hope that this particular situation is as well.
To refresh my memory, when can you get that, Michael? When was that? So it wasn't for the Maria fire. Maria fire was just this year.
Thomas Fire.
I want to say, no, I wasn't here for the Thomas fire. We had it while I was here.
Then it must have been the Maria.
We had some other issues not related to fires over the holidays in 2018.
Winter break.
And this is for all school sites or all facilities?
Correct. They have a route set up to focus on all the school sites, paying specific attention to the middle school and the high school.
Is it because of the pandemic that we're seeming to be more vulnerable during this time, or what do you think is the reason for this recent need?
My guess would be any time that the public is aware of vacancy, we'll call it, of your sites, you're more susceptible to theft, break-ins, vandalism, all of those things. And I would assume under these circumstances, as you have economic crisis, those things escalate as well.
Well, if it appears that we're going to continue to be vacant the rest of the year, so I guess we'll be having this protection through the end of the school year?
Correct. The item is requesting approval through June 30th.
Okay.
And we will readdress the issue in July. There, per Governor Newsom's and State Superintendent, there's been some indications of potentially opening school earlier than anticipated. So we'll be working through that.
Thank you.
And Mercedes, I think it's pretty similar to when you have a home that kids in the neighborhood know that no one's living in. There's no renters, it's just vacant. It opens itself up to more possibilities. So that's why we have the security.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Anyone? Oh, all right, then let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And all not in favor, say nay, but there are none. So 5-0. Thank you. And now we'll move on to action item C, approval of contract with MJP Technologies Incorporated for equipment and monthly service. The staff recommends the Board of Trustees review and consider approving a contract with MJP for equipment and monthly service. A motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, and discussion? Anyone?
I have a question. Kudos for getting these and getting them out, because we do have parents that, for different reasons, need, excuse me, the hotspots. And it was wonderful reading through the board update on how many Chromebooks are going out to each specific school, and hearing the totals tonight of how many Chromebooks are going out. Do we have any idea of how many more past the 200 hotspots we need? How are those surveys coming in from parents that need the service after the Chromebook?
Before I have a staff member answer that question, I want to make sure that the board's aware that the hotspots that came in, we're waiting for Verizon to be able to deactivate the texting and phone calls that you can make from them now. So we're working on that portion. But do I have a staff member that can answer that question, the second question that Ms. Mead asked?
Yes, I can answer that. When we conducted our family survey, our results indicated that about 30% of our households indicated that they do not have internet access, which would be a little over 1,500 hotspots. So again, our priority was starting with the high school. We did submit a request to CDE through the Closing the Digital Divide initiative. And we were notified this week that we are on the priority list for hotspots. We have not received any information on how many we might receive, but we do know that hotspots are in high demand nationally, and that CDE is waiting for them to arrive into the country. So we're hoping to find out more information soon, but we're anticipating based on our numbers again, about 1,500 hotspots would be needed to provide access to every single family. And Sally, I don't know if you have any additional information.
I think as we move forward in this, there are parents that didn't have an understanding when the survey went out, so we're continuing to have calls being placed, and I know that site administrators are gathering those final numbers. In addition, we have some areas where, although they have satellite service at home, it's not adequate for the amount of streaming that's going to be required, so those numbers are coming in as well. And then once we have that final understanding, our needs may change as we go back to being on campus and in a split setting where we may have the opportunity to lower the data if it's needed. So it will be something that's constantly evolving and in flux as we go through it, but I foresee hopefully those costs dropping as we move forward.
Dr. Kerr, do we have an approximate date on when those 200 will be programmed and out to families?
I'm going to partially answer for Ms. Rowland because she just shared with us the other day. We have them and Verizon's working on it, but we don't know if it's tomorrow, Friday, next week. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Rowland. I remember you saying that they have been able to deactivate those two functions for other districts, but for whatever reason, they have not been able to do ours yet. Is that correct, Ms. Rowland?
That is correct. Their engineering team is working both on the East Coast and West Coast. So they are working early mornings on the East Coast and then handing it off to the West Coast team to configure those devices. At this point in time, we've been able to test a small portion, and calling is currently deactivated. However, the texting functionality, they're having trouble with their code, and they have been unable to successfully disable that at this point in time. We are receiving messages every few hours with updates, so they are working diligently on doing so for us, and they understand that this is a huge priority for our students, and they are placing us as a priority.
For those of us that just take internet as second nature, it says click here, do this, that, and everything. One of the communications from the school district I was reading, and it said if you don't have internet access, click here. But for those that
don't have internet access, they wouldn't be able to have read that. So I think we need to keep in mind that we may have to go old school and call those that haven't logged in or whatever, because the Chromebook is good, but if our goal is to have them have access to the internet, we may have to do a little more.
And just very quickly, one of the responses I gave to the board, and one of the questions, because yesterday at our leadership team meeting, I asked principals, how are we doing with communicating with students? Some had exact numbers. I'm going to compliment Dr. Olivo. Of her 500 and some students, there was only 39 that they did not contact, and they were working on contacting those students. So all principals are working on who has not checked in. And those who have not, they're getting their office staff, their counselors. If they need to, they'll make home visits. We have access to the SROs if we need to make some home visits to check on those students. So it's been a process, but we're working on it, and the goal is eventually to find out those who did not why, and if they don't have access, if they don't have a Chromebook, let's get them one. If they don't have a hotspot, again, like Ms. Sheffley said, we're starting with our seniors, working our way down, and eventually, it may come the end of the year, but if this has to go into next school year, we're ready to go.
I just want to say thank you to all of you who've worked so hard to bring this to fruition. I see people on Facebook who are saying, I can't, we don't know how to log on, and we, this and that and the other thing. And I don't say anything because I can't help them. But I know that you guys are actively trying to solve these problems, and I just want to thank you we all thank you so much for doing such great work. Let's vote on 6C. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And carries 5-0. All right, we're going to move to 6D, contract with City Impact Counseling Services for 2020 through 2021. City Impact provides counseling services for students based on IEPs. The staff recommends the board review and approve the contract for City Impact for the 2020-21 school year. All right, motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. Discussion. No discussion? All right. Then we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Vote carries 5-0. Item 6E, contract with Gold Coast 2020 for 2020 and through 2021. Gold Coast provides services at the secondary schools as additional safety measures. Staff recommends review and approval of the contract for Gold Coast K-9 services. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Thank you. And we will have discussion. Dr. Carr, do you want to say anything about that?
I know that between Dr. Aguirre and Mr. Arjun, they've got some experience with the dogs, the K-9 service. I gave the board, provide the board an email with some information on the K-9s. Dr. Aguirre or Mr. Arjun, you have anything you want to add?
No, they've been very good at making sure that they are timely with their searches. They've done a great job for us. They were really quick to add the article dogs when we asked them in December. So they've been a great service.
And Dr. Aguirre, you want to quickly define article dogs again?
Sure. An article dog is a dog that is searching for weapons. They're primarily looking for firearms.
And the other dogs are substance dogs, correct?
Correct. And they have been successful at finding some very interesting substances.
Is it possible in blue letters when they send their reports to maybe forward that on to the board? Because there's a couple things in there that was rather serious and kind of that the board had not been notified of.
Meaning after the searches and what was found?
Yeah, I'd like to second what Michelle just said, because I've never seen a report before, and would like to see them.
I just like to comment that when I was at the high school and they would come into my class, it was very well done. They're very professional. They ask all of the students to exit the room. The teacher exits the room and stays with the students outside. The dog runs through the room, alerts, and then the students come back in, and those backpacks usually are taken outside, and the students go with them. And it's just all done so very professionally, and the dogs they're just amazing. So I'm really happy to give that because they're really fabulous. So they're good.
We
need
need to
them.
make it clear, though, that unfortunately, because of the different flavors, this is not, dogs are not trained for vaping. They may be trained for some kind of vaping, but by the time they get trained on that vaping, it's a different base. So there are other ways to do that, but since that's almost our number one, we have to still be diligent about that.
I'm hoping that the public service announcements that they've been putting out on TV will start having an effect with students. I've been seeing more and more non-vaping commercials about putting it down and quitting, so we'll see.
And I just, as a comment, I want to echo what Mrs. Thompson said about the professionalism of Gold Coast. People that I spoke with were very, very adamant against having dogs in the high school. However, what I did was I went out and did a visit with the dogs and the trainers, and found them to be very respectable, not threatening to the students, threatening to the environment. It's all done very well. So I just want the public to know that even though it sounds like a very police state type environment, it really isn't. It's done professionally and courteously, and nowadays we need it.
All right, any more discussion? Okay, let's take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the vote carries 5-0. We'll move on to 6F, contract with Tutorific 2020 through 2021. Tutorific provides services based on needs identified through the IEP process. Staff recommends review and approval of the contract for Tutorific for the 2020-2021 school year. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And discussion. Anybody? No?
It's a wise move.
Sorry?
It's a wise move
Okay.
to provide this service to our special ed students.
Right. Okay. All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It carries 5-0. All right, we'll move now to the 7th item, consent calendar action item. Consent items are considered routine and will be enacted by a single motion. None of the items will be discussed unless a board member requests discussion prior to the vote of the motion to adopt the consent calendar. We're voting for 7A, contracts. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve consent calendar 7A.
Thank you. And a second? Second. Thank you. Any discussion? I guess we don't have discussion for this. Anybody? No? We're good? Okay, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, now we're going to move to item number 8, board member comments and requests. And Mr. Luna, if you are ready, we'll let you go first.
Well, first I want to thank everybody for what they've been doing throughout this tough and uncharted times. I think that we're doing a great job in the district, and we are leading a movement that other districts can follow. I know it's not easy for the students being home. I know it's not easy for the parents having their students at home. Many of these students probably have parents who have lost their jobs, and those students have to go out and help their families. I just want to say that the teachers, the district, we're all on the student's side during this time. We want the best for the students. We hope that they're getting the most out of their distance learning, and we really, really want to stress, and I really want to stress, the mental health status of the students to make sure that they're all doing well, and that they get out of their house once in a while and get some sunlight, because this is a very difficult time. So I just want to commend everybody, and with that being said, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. And we'll go down to Ms. Urias.
Yes, I am part of the legislative committee with California School Board Association, and we had a 2-hour meeting today. And I'd like to share what some of the comments were, especially since Governor Newsom had just given a briefing last night. And what happened is a lot of people panicked because Governor Newsom said schools might be able to start up as late as July. I mean, as early as late July. And I know I got a text right away. Tina, is it true school's going to start in July? And so our meeting today discussed that and how CSBA is at the table on these discussions, along with legislators and other interest groups. And we think that Governor got a little ahead of himself. The healthcare professionals still need to weigh in. This all has to be coordinated. And I think Governor Newsom caught off guard quite a few people, including the Tony Thurmond, our Secretary of Education. Now, having said that, Governor Newsom is listening to us. He's not saying this is the way it's going to be and blah, blah, blah. So I think that our people have told his people, hey, next time, maybe you need to check in with us. And he's not opposed to that, so he's not being a jerk. And so I think we're going to have more cooperation and communication with the state of California governor. One of the things we discussed is, of course, it was all about the pandemic and the budget. The budget, it's going to be more expensive now to reopen schools. And in the meanwhile, we have the feeding programs, we have the learning programs. Our budget's getting tanked. What's school going to look like when we resume? Are we going to have alternative days? Some students go this day, some students go another day. That's going to have an impact, not in Santa Paula, but it's going to have an impact on transportation costs, our playgrounds. Things are not going to be the same. And so CSBA is looking at getting input from local school districts about how to reopen. We do have some liaisons, and when I say we, I mean CSBA. We do have some liaisons to the federal government, and we'll know more from them in a few days, but funding is going to be key. We need adequate resources before we can reopen, and what does the future look like? Some of the ideas being tossed around in this meeting were, can there be a freeze on STRS and PERS contributions? Because we need some stability right now. We should be talking to our legislators. We should be letting them know by the people on the ground what is actually happening in the schools. Special education costs are going up. There, our most vulnerable students are being affected. how can we tap into other state and federal funding? No bailouts per our president. There's not going to be any bailouts. So, and if there are, how large will they be? And the funding that we do get needs to be flexible. And one of the ideas was maybe we can look at lowering the threshold for parcel taxes. Is there any low-hanging fruit? So this discussion was a good one, and what will happen is our lobbyists will take this information to Sacramento, and also we can also help by talking to our legislators. And I don't want to go on too long, but it was very important that I mentioned how we have these issues about feeding programs, learning distance programs, the budget. Technology, of course, we mentioned that. There's a digital divide, you know, that's also a problem. But even more specific than that, and school member Luna said mental health. I think that's really going to be a key. I mean, we can look at all the academics and hotspots and Chromebooks, but we also need to look at mental health needs. As you've heard, domestic calls are up, and you can understand why. More people are together, and some people don't have the biggest homes. We've got more people in small homes. The warmer temperatures don't help. So these are very day-to-day concerns, and we can't, my personal belief is we can't ignore the mental health needs of our kids and families. That's really going to be up there with academics. So, oh, and I just wanted to say that our feeding program, one day, Dr. Cora told us that the line was going down Stecco Drive. What I heard in this conference call today was that in some areas, the line for the feeding program was 4 miles long. So schools are doing their part in keeping our families fed, which is important. And Derek gave kudos to our staff, and I have to do the same. So just wanted you to know that CSBA is on it. They know the issues. We plan to meet telephonically through the month of May, and I'll bring back that information. So we're not in it alone. And it was really good for me to hear all this stuff and share it with you too, because sometimes you think Santa Paula is all alone in dealing with this, but we're not. Every school board member in California is dealing with this. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Ms. Shariz, for that update. Mrs. Colbeck.
I want to give the board a summary of, we had a joint committee special meeting, and it was Zoom. It turned out to be one of the longer agendas, and it was called by the city. So the first one was the COVID impacts on city district finances, and both entities shared how COVID is affecting their budget. The city is facing almost $2 million in reduced tax revenues out of their already strained $16 million budget. And then the district shared many of the additional costs we are incurring, as evident by the actions on tonight's agenda. And both entities are having to provide more services with less money. Item number 2 on the agenda was an update on the Harvest development. And surprisingly enough, the housing market is going strong in the Harvest. The first and second phase are almost sold out. And one of the next phases, by demand, will include single-story housing. So as of now, the permits are being pulled, and it looks like it's holding its own. Number 3 was the SRO role with school closures. As you know, SROs are paid now by a grant from the school district, but due to the school closures, they have been given hours by the police department and funded by the city. But this has put another strain on the city because they did not budget for this. So discussions centered around how the SROs could continue to help students by making phone calls, creating short videos, large crowd control, and/or making the welfare checks where needed. Since they know many of the students and families already, it's just another element that could be used. Because they do have this connection, they were hoping that we, the district, could use them more as they move forward, because again, this is something that was unbudgeted for the city. The number 4 was laptop and internet access for families and hotspot, and the item was for joint use and cost for the city. Well, since the city has no money, they didn't offer any money, and so Dr. Cora just brought the committee up to date on the distribution of devices and the internet access as was reported in tonight's agenda. Another agenda item was mental health resources available in Santa Paula. The city is also receiving calls, and due to the restrictions in place, as Ms. Sharia said, there is concern for the mental health of our students and families. We already identified the at-risk students and families, but with this crisis, normal families can become at risk very quickly. So it was relayed that counselors and mental health employees have been doing an excellent job, and we should be looking into providing the local resources for our families. Again, you can Google many mental health resources. Mostly they're toll-free numbers, they're help guides, they're this and that. But as we all know, people like to reach out to those that they know. So the school district is one area that they reach out. The city would like it if we could provide them some of our resources that they could also put on their website, so that parents and families do know of what we offer in this area. The 6th agenda item was explore future possibility of using school sites for emergency shelters. Thank goodness we haven't been asked in this pandemic, and so it was suggested that when we return to a more normal state, the city and the district work more closely together in coordinating our emergent response and resources. We need to be able to tap in quickly to what the city has, what we have, and so there needs to be a greater communication and lists of items and things that we could both bring to the table. They were interested in our graduation ceremony update, but since a meeting was already scheduled with the high school, no update was available. They wanted to know the update on changes to the middle school locations and grade K-8 locations. We talked about the main building status at Isabel and what that would look like. Again, they were not aware of the astronomical cost of retrofitting and or building. And of course, there's still that, well, what if you just build a new junior high in East Area 1? There's a lot of what ifs. We could buy a lottery ticket and we could all go home and be happy. So we explained to them about the money, about declining enrollment, but the good news, the houses are selling. The bad news is, yeah. So the meeting closed with both sides committed to working together to use resources wisely, and we all agreed that we need to work as partners to serve our taxpayers better, because quite frankly, we're the only 2 entities that they have. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Colbeck, for that update from the city. And now we'll have Ms. Mead.
I just want to thank the 3 board members that already went ahead and second what they've said, and thank you for the update on the city meeting. It's very interesting. I wanted to say kudos to the people that are up on Zoom. They've been working amazingly to keep the district up and running, and I know the whole board appreciates all the extra work that you're doing. Teachers that are out there, parents that are out there, kids that are out there, our students that are working so hard in this craziness that's going on. So thank you to all of you. Next is just kind of scary hearing the state budget and what may be coming down the pike, or should I say what may not be coming down in the budget. And I wanted to say thank you to the district for looking ahead. We had a big reserve. It's going to come in handy. We started cutting back this year for next year. That's going to help us out in the long run as we look forward, not in a positive way, of what we're going to have to do to continue on the cutbacks. So thank you again for the foresight in looking ahead and not waiting to the last minute because our budget crunch is here. On the last note, I just wanted to say thank you again, especially to Suzanne Stamp and all of her crew in the Children's Nutrition Service. It is amazing. It does my heart good to be down here on Mondays to watch the team of employees and volunteers getting the food out to our parents. Our parents are so appreciative of the organization, and it gets smoother every week. So thank you to Suzanne and her crew for an amazing job in helping to feed our community. It's so appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mead. Okay, well, I would just like to tell you a few things I saw in the paper about our students. The first thing is that the Ventura College Foundation awarded 27 Santa Paula students scholarships. Some of them got $1,000 who were continuing at Ventura College, and some of them who are transferring to a four-year college got $4,000. So we're just real proud of our students here that did that. And the second thing that I saw in the paper is Julia Fernandez, who is the Santa Paula High School Ag Program President. And they had a nice article about how the ag program is continuing to do well. And she she wrote the article. And she had a really nice quote that I'd like to read you. She said, I quote, "If these events have taught us anything, it has been how to value our life each day and take advantage of every opportunity that comes our way," unquote. I thought that was really nice for a high school senior. And also I want to say thank you to David Garcia, who was a young man who lives here in town, who put the big banner on the tennis court fence, I guess it is, see-through fence. And that says, congratulations to the Santa Paula students. And also, there are some other of his signs around town, and then there are some different signs. And I just love that whole idea about the kids having signs. And I noticed some of them had their pictures on them. And so, and I even saw on Facebook that the junior high. See, that's what happens when you're as old as I am. You say junior high instead of middle school.
I didn't blink an eye, so I was right there with you.
The middle school students the eighth graders are starting to do that too. So anyway, I think it's great that they still are taking heart, and, they haven't given up on anything. And I know that Dr. Cora has been working with the high school and with Renaissance to try to provide a suitable honor for those students. And we don't want, we would like to have what we normally have, but it might not be possible, so we have to do what we can, and they'll be fine. And one of these days they'll have bragging rights and say, well, you know what, when they get to be grandparents, you kids are complaining we didn't have a graduation during 2020 coronavirus. So we love them. We want to do the best we can for them. And I wish you all the best, stay well. Our next board meeting will be, a regular board meeting will be May 13th. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 7:52. 7:56.